HBCU. Yeah.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with the Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Welcome and thanks for joining us for the only weekly sports talk radio show that is dedicated to exploring the sporting HBCU diaspora with its unique HBCU cultural identity, including the teams, the bands, coaches, athletic directors, classes, and homecoming events, as well as presidents and commissioners. We also talk about the sport management business practices in a competitive sports industry. The show seeks to provide innovative, progressive, and informative dialogue about the week's HBCU sporting events, the issues and ideas from a fan's perspective. And we look at the Southwestern Athletic Conference, better known as the SWAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, better known as the MEAC, of the NCAA Division I, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SIAC, Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, CIAA, of the NCAA Division II, Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, GCAC, of NAIA, and independent programs such as Tennessee State of the Ohio Valley, Hampton of the Big South. Oops. Not yet. We get it next year. Next year. Yeah, we'll get into that as you know. Langston in terms of the Red River Athletic Conference as they play in the Central State Football League, but they're moving to the Sooner Athletic Conference next year, so as well as Texas College is a football only member. So you know what's hot and heavy tonight. We got a lot of big talk to you. Everybody wants to know who the coach gonna get. I've got some calls, but I can't give you the information yet, so I just keep on waiting. And when we get a little closer, I'm gonna give you some updates about that. But really, on the serious side, tough business. So I'll let you drop the dime. What's going on there about some of the hot news out there? I guess the first thing we can talk about is Hampton, and then we can get into some of these coaching. There were three things that happened this past week. We had resignations.
Yes.
We had non-renewals.
Right.
Yep.
And we had dismissals.
Yep.
Yes.
Is the way I would call it.
Yes.
And if you add it up going back to the season when they actually started, because this is one of the first years where you notice this started during the season, which is what you tend to see at the professional level. You start to see it a little more at the college level, Power 5. I'm not sure if I've really seen this deep into the season at the HBCU level. So you see that things are becoming that much more serious about people wanting to win, and the lack of patience is
Lack
here
of patience.
and among us as we had White Sunday and White Monday for these coaches that got their papers in some form or fashion that they would no longer be with the institution. So for those coaches, it's tough, and they have families. This not only affects the head coaches, but also those assistant coaches that are waiting to see what will happen to them.
Right.
So we'll talk about this seriously, but in terms of our framework, this is not a joking matter. It is pretty stressful out there for a lot of coaches.
Yes,
but before we dissect and get into these coachings, I think the big news that first shocked the world, if you want to use that vernacular, is the fact that Hampton came out. I got the news late that I guess they did the announcement on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, I believe it was. It was either
Thursday.
Yeah.
And so I got the news late Wednesday. I've heard a little bit about it, but they finally came out and they went straight, and Big South did a big announcement as they had Hampton coming out and stating that they were moving all sports to the Big South Conference. So that's big news of the day. It seems like Mike wants to jump right in here as we get into this. So before we get that quick, let's jump in and give some of shout outs to some of the people out there. Jimmy L. Wilson, he said he couldn't wait to hear what we had to say about all the things going on. Ernest Smithers III.
Ernest Smithers. Ernie, LB.
Merrill Hardy, Johnny Corner Walker, Aaron Claiborne, Tina Pennywell Thrower. Aaron Claiborne is a former student of mine, getting out to getting it done. Hey, Tina said, hey, Doc. Yes. Hello. Charlie E. Owens, Bledsoe, my another fraternity brother of ours out there.
Biscuits.
Some of y'all, Wendell Davis, you gonna throw him out there.
Biscuits.
But we finna give you this news, so listen up in regards to what's going on here. Hot and heavy. What's your take, Mike?
Yeah, one quick correction. They're going in every sport except lacrosse. The only reason I know that is because my son plays lacrosse, and he's been getting, for whatever reason.
So Big South doesn't play lacrosse.
Right. Big deal.
That is a big deal. It's a big note. And you should know that as your son is up there. Have they sent a letter to your son? That's the other question.
Exactly.
We have. Have they sent a letter? Or,
Well, as you...
is it legal? You can tell us all that kind of stuff.
Well, email, yes. Email interest letter and email update letter from the assistant coaches, not the head coach.
So has Hampton sent the letter from the assistant coach?
Yes. Email.
Credit to Hampton. I won't go in on you too far today, then. Because last Saturday they asked me questions. I did my academic platform, and I just looked at the numbers. They didn't fit. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, obviously, big news. Hampton moving from the MEAC to the Big South. That story came out.
Why is that big news?
You have another HBCU that has left the HBCU footprint within the MEAC and the SWAC.
But I ask you again, why is that big news?
I personally think it's big news from the standpoint of
look at it. He act like he declared. I personally, I asked you.
That's too political. Come on now. Let it out.
Hey, you turn the camera on. You say,
come on, man. Let it out. Let it out.
I think.
I perceive. Those are weasel words. Come on.
Of course, I hate to see Hampton leave the MEAC. I hate to see them leave.
No, but answer the question. Why is that big news?
Well, it's big news just from the standpoint of the conference that they're going to, the Big South. I'm not sure if, you know,
Struggling.
Where did you upgrade? Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out.
That's why I'm asking why it's a big news.
Yeah, well.
Oh, you saying it's big news because you don't see the star attraction?
Well, I guess I'm struggling to figure out the big news from that standpoint of you left, you know, the MEAC conference to go to the Big South. So I'm still kind of struggling with, okay, what's the big whoop-de-doo?
Yeah.
You know, so to speak.
What was the win? What was the win? What was the gain?
Right. And I understand you're playing within the North Carolina, Virginia footprint, which Hampton's in Virginia. But again, I'm still struggling to kind of figure out where is the huge upgrade. You know, is the water that much colder? So, you know,
Ooh, he used the bad word.
Did he say water and colder? Normally we use green and grass and greener.
I'm trying
Mike,
to
I'm
figure
gonna put it on you. He just said cola. Ooh, you know that's tough language when you. Cola.
Yeah, exactly. So,
what you think, Mike?
No, I asked myself, what are the gains? What do you gain by moving to that conference? Is it exposure? I have to say no. Is it competition? I have to say it's 50-50. Okay? And then third, is it recruiting? Is it a strategic move from a recruiting standpoint? So I at the end of the day, I'm resolved to the fact that maybe the move is a 50-50 or 50 whatever. If you use those factors and that criteria, I'm not resolved that it was a positive move. When Tennessee State goes to the conference, if it's successful, it's a positive move. In this move, I'm not convinced it's the best move.
Tennessee State's still waiting on the OVC title. So.
Exactly. Well, Tennessee State's waiting.
Well, now listen.
Okay, all right.
They had two football, and you're right.
Yeah.
One of them, if not both of them, were taken away by NCAA.
Well, yeah.
And they've had two in basketball.
They had two in basketball.
Those were back in the 80s.
Right.
So
but the other perspective is we have to look at it beyond football.
Sure.
Look at it track. Look at it basketball. How competitive can they be in those other sports?
That's true, but why would you want to look at it in terms of those other sports? In terms of how does that help you? How does that help you in terms of those non-revenue sports? So I'm very intrigued about trying to understand it. But I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, so I'll just do the quote.
Yep.
Harvey, this is coming from the Undefeated. They had a phone conversation with Harvey. Harvey is the president, President Harvey.
Yep.
He's about to celebrate 40 years at Hampton University, and I think it's inarguable to talk about the great things he's did at Hampton University. Obviously, he made the move from the CIAA to the MEAC, so Division II to Division I. He's instituted, as you said, a lacrosse program, the first HBCU lacrosse program to play at the Division I level. There was a previous program and some others. Obviously, one of the more, namely one is Morgan State, but they played at the Division II level, small college level at that time, which is concurrent with Division II, and that's why the MEAC is able to, Hampton is able to say they have the first HBCU program to play at lacrosse at the Division I level with that point of fact. Obviously, they have a selling program. They've increased academically in a lot of ways. But he said this move, and when I say he, President Hampton for 40 years, President Harvey said, quote, "I have always been very interested in the concept of student athlete, which means a focus on academics and top athletics." Harvey said, "To me, this is a very good fit for our own ethos of top academics and top athletics." So I was very curious about that. And I think that's a plausible argument when you say that this is about academics and athletics. Let me start from the athletics standpoint. I think if you use the measure from the Sagarin ratings in regards to where the conference is, you can make a plausible argument that this is a significant move for Hampton University, or at least a upgrade for Hampton University, moving from the MEAC, which is ranked 29th, versus the Big South, and football is ranked 25th. Now, my question is that's marginal, 25 to 29. Just for the record out there, for folks that want to know, the SWAC West is ranked 31, and the SWAC East is ranked 33. I'm interested in how the SWAC West may not be stronger than the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference when you add both the heavy end and bottom end, but not far between 34 32. But that differential between 4 spots, as you alluded to, will this put you in a place where you actually recruit not just a couple of better athletes, but you need to recruit a significant number of better athletes. Right. So will this marginal growth in your increase in terms of perception now of the Sagarin rating, is that enough? Let's look closely at basketball, since we're talking about the 2 revenue sports, football and men's basketball, in terms of what we see that gives you the most money out there. Basketball, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference has slipped for a while in regards to that, which is the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference at 34 and the Big South at 28. So a little more measurable there. The SWAC is above Mid-Eastern in terms of this year's going in with 33. We'll go back a little bit and talk about academics, but now we have Coach Willie Simmons from Prairie View A&M University on the line. So we're going to go ahead and talk about last weekend's matchup, which was a Thursday game. They played Incarnate Word, playing a Southland program. They actually went on the road to San Antonio. They jumped on Incarnate Word. That game was on television, so I had a chance not only to kind of listen and watch the scoreboard as I do a lot of times, but actually watch that game from the framework of what took place on the field. Just to give a recap, and then we'll ask Coach Willie Simmons to see if my accuracy was correct in my recap there in regards to them jumping out on Incarnate Words. 21-0, it's 28-7 going into the half. And then Incarnate Word came back and actually tied the game. And then a couple of big plays, and Prairie View went away with the game, winning, going away in terms of the 42-28 final score. Is that a good analysis there? What would you add to what I said there, Coach Willie Simmons? See, I've been working on my skill set. I've been listening to y'all all year, Coach. So talk a little bit about that matchup. What was your thoughts in terms of how the players played in that game, both from the offensive and defensive side?
Well, I thought that offensively, I thought the guys did a really good job. Nico Hollins continues to play at a high level. 343 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Had his highest completion percentage of the year, close to 70% completion. So it shows that he's doing a better job of throwing accurate balls, getting the balls to the guys when needed be. And Kadara Hodge and Darius Floyd had big games for him. Darius Floyd had a career high, 11 catches, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think it makes us a very explosive offense. So I was really happy to see those guys have that type of success defensively. You know, I thought other than the one big play that we gave up, for the 81-yard touchdown pass we gave up on a busted coverage, I thought those guys did a really good job. You know, we kind of neutralized them, kept them from, you know, running the ball. That's always key. If we can stop the run, we were able to kind of stop their running game, and we're able to keep the ball in front of us and have some big turnovers that gave us the ball on short fields. And then in the kicking game, you know, we did enough to win the game. So one of our more complete games. I wouldn't say it was our most complete, but definitely one of our more complete games on the road. You know, in a tough environment, going down to San Antonio and playing another Southern team. So proud of the guys of how they responded to adversity, like you said, when the game was tied up 28-28. Could have really hit the panic button, but those guys continued to fight, stay true to themselves, and were able to, you know, push the lead back up to a pretty reasonable amount that allowed us to run the clock out at the end. So big win for the program. Gives us a chance to continue our goals of finishing with the third winning season in a row. All the second time that will be done if we can pull it off this week in the last 50 years. So something we're definitely looking forward to as a program.
Certainly, Coach. Thanks for the analysis of the game there. I thought one thing that I noticed that I thought was impressive in terms of that third quarter, when it just seemed like all the momentum was going away. As a fan, some tough calls that I thought were questionable, and this is from a fan's perspective, so you don't have to interject in there. We don't want no fines. I don't have any more stake money, and so it's a holiday. But I thought that said something about your team, your players, and as you talk about building the character of this team in terms of being on the road and finding a way to finish a game in such a way that it comes out in a positive framework. Mike, you have a question you'd like to jump in and ask?
Yeah, Coach Simmons, you talked about Darius Floyd, 11 for 148 yards. Darryl Hards, 6 for 87. Both had 2 touchdowns. So you were the offense was going on all pistons, total yards 510. What message and what specifics have you infused in this team in terms of finishing the season? Because Texas Southern is a big matchup. They've been playing big. They've got a couple of wins to kind of build up their confidence here lately. So what have you infused in this team in terms of just finishing the complete finish of the season?
Well, you know, the one thing that I've tried to do, and it's always a tough challenge being a head coach of 18 to 23-year-olds, when you haven't had the type of on-the-field success that maybe you envision or that maybe other people, project you to have, is that we just trust the process. You know, we continue to trust and believe in what our core values are, you know, our 7 F's. And you know, like we tell our guys, I mean, those principles are going to carry us in football. Those principles are going to carry us in the classroom. And they're going to carry us in life. And, you know, and when time gets tough, that's when we have to really look back and focus on and really focus on those little things. You know, and that's what the message has been for these guys all season. You know, the 5 losses that we have, you know, you look at 4 of those losses and a couple of plays here and there, we're on the other side of that thing. You know, and it's a couple of plays, and that's all it is. And so, you know, we'll continue to talk to the guys about focusing on those little things. How we conduct our day-to-day business, the way we, you know, carry ourselves, like we always say, the way we do anything, the way we do everything. And so we're doing the right things in the classroom, we're doing the right things off the field, in study tables, in FCA, on the practice field, that the success will come, you know, and you know, then we have to reprioritize our goals and understand that, you know, now the goal after a couple of losses is to, you know, finish with a winning record, like we talked about, finish with a winning conference record, send these seniors out the right way, and give those guys a chance to say that they're part of history, that they're part of a program that, like I said, that's only done something twice in 50 years, and that's finished with 3 consecutive winning seasons. So I think once we had that last loss to Southern, that it kind of really galvanized the guys, and we had to look ourselves in the mirror and do some soul searching. And fortunately for us, a lot of those guys woke up, you know, and hopefully we can continue to stay woke and have a big game this weekend.
I like this. Stay woke.
Yeah. Coach Charles Bishop here. We wanted to talk about the maturation of Nico Hollins. Another week where he's been recognized by the conference. He was a SWAC Offensive Player of the Week this past week, but he's putting up these 300-yard games pretty regularly now. Talk about Nico Hollins.
Well, you know, he's a guy that coming into the season, we really had high aspirations for. And, you know, we didn't name a starter going into that first week. You know, we wanted to keep the suspense and, you know, try to hold our cards close to our vest. But was the guy that gave us the best chance because of his football IQ, because he's a guy that doesn't really get rattled, whether he has a good play or a bad play. He just kind of bounces back and plays the next play. And especially at the quarterback position, that's something that you look for. And to be a young guy, he has a leadership quality about him. He's not afraid to get in the guy's face. He's not afraid to call older guys out. And as a quarterback, that's what you want. And so we felt that he was going to be the guy. And then we had a situation in camp, where he made a young decision that, he probably regrets, that a lot of us regret, and that forced us to go with Lavelle. Not going to go into much detail about it because, again, it's water in the bridge at this point. But, we made that decision. But then after a few weeks, we evaluated what we were as an offense and as a program, and felt that we needed better decision making. And even after being demoted, he continued to be that same guy. And that's why I felt comfortable making the switch back to him after, those few losses, because he never changed. He was still the guy that tried to lead. He was still the guy that tried to watch film and on the sideline during games, giving Lavelle advice, coming to me saying, hey, coach, they're doing this. Being a real student of the game. And I think his growth and his maturity has really been on the platform in the forefront the last few weeks since he's taken over the helm. And like you said, when he's on, he's as good freshman quarterback there in the country. And I think he's going to be one of the better players in the country in the very near future.
Certainly. Thank you for taking us inside the program on the little insight there. Want to go even further there. I would imagine the first season, because of it being the first season of such success, that was exciting. Last year you had another winning record. Some things didn't go well in terms of the injury of the quarterback. But this year you have a chance to go 500, as you said, go above 500, another winning season, third consecutive in a row. It would be the second time for the program doing that over its long historic history. But with that thought process, with the schedule you played this year, I wanted to kind of go in and see your thoughts on it. I had a chance, obviously we focus a lot about HBCU sports. With that, we have the FCS programs there, but looked at the announcements of the FCS playoffs. And two of the programs that you played, top 25 teams, made it to the playoffs. Sam Houston State and Nichols out of the Southland. And so that part of the schedule, obviously Grambling is top 25 team, really top 10 team, as they continue to push through and show the strength. And then obviously Southern and Alcorn, very strong programs. But kind of gauge where you think about this program in terms of your schedule versus the other two.
Well, this year we knew that we had a very challenging schedule. We knew that Sam Houston was a national power. They were ranked preseason number 3. So we wanted to really gauge where we were in year 3, see what we stacked against one of the teams perceived to be one of the top 5 or 10 teams in the country. The Nichols State game was one that, Nichols had been a team that had shown flashes. They had a couple of good years and a couple of average years. So we really didn't know what type of team that they were, going into it. And so, but, again, we're not, in hindsight, I can't say, well, man, we should have scheduled a D2 or another NAIA and try to get a few more wins. We feel like to get this program where we want it to be and to get the national respect that we think we deserve, we have to play those type of games. And eventually we have to win those type of games. And so, we're going to continue to recruit. Hopefully those games help us in recruiting. Everyone was able to see the Sam Houston game on TV, and, we had a lot of great feedback after that game. And, we were able to finally beat a Southland opponent last week at Carnet Word. So, hopefully those things, on top of the fact that we have one of the better facilities in all of FCS football, will give us a chance to bring in the type of student athletes that we'll need and transfer students that we'll need to be able to compete on the same level as a Sam Houston or a Nichols or Central Arkansas, those type of programs.
Thank you for that. Mike, you want to follow up with a question?
Yeah, Coach Simmons. Kind of following up on that question. You guys had a tough schedule. Now you're building up on talent. You got some momentum building. Take us through your mindset and your crystal ball. What 2 or 3 points do you take from this season and leverage into next season? Because as a fan and as an alumni, I'm very excited, but I'm looking to see, what's exciting you the most about this season, even though playoffs aside, championship aside. You're finishing strong. What things are you excited about the most going into next season?
Well, not to try to single out players. I really don't like doing that, because again, it's a team sport, ultimate team sport. But as we all know, it's a quarterback-driven game. It's a quarterback-driven league. I mean, the best teams in the conference at this point all have senior quarterbacks who all played in SWAC championship games. Just about taking K was the rank.
I like that analysis. Man, we are watching you trying to take our job.
And also Howard played in the SWAC championship as a freshman. So, the fact that we have probably the top returning quarterback in the conference next year is definitely something to be very excited about. We return most of our offensive line. We only lose one offensive lineman off this team, and that's Sean Pierce. So we have a great nucleus of young guys. So again, we feel like we have a great young core of talent. Now a lot of it's talent that needs to be nurtured. They need to get in the weight room. They need to take advantage of the nutrition station that we have and really develop their bodies. But we feel like they have a chance to be really good players for us. So, and we feel like we have a schedule, in the future that gives us a chance to continue to highlight this program. Open it up against Rice in week 0. Traveling to Sam Houston next year. Right now the talks of possibly being in the SWAC MEAC game. So again, it gives us a chance to continue to boost our brand name and brand recognition, and that's what we're all about. And we feel like we do the little things right. The thing to take away from the season is that again we're a few little things from being a team that's getting ready to go to Houston to play the championship game.
Absolutely.
Not a lot, a few plays here and there, and if we can find a way to make those few plays, we feel like we're right where we want to be as a program.
Yep, go Panthers. Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't say it, Dr. Kimby. I'm sorry.
Got me a little excited over it.
Got me excited
especially
already.
as he snuck that in there about the MEAC SWAC challenge at the end of the conversation, so we couldn't follow up on that. But certainly it's been exciting to be able to bring you into the station and let the listeners hear about this football season as we go week to week, reviewing previous games and talking about upcoming games. With that, going into this final question here, going into this matchup against Texas Southern University this Saturday, with the game changing from the Labor Day weekend now to the Thanksgiving weekend, what are your thoughts about this matchup?
Well, I had a long talk with the team today. I think the important thing to know in this game is that you can throw the records out the window. You can throw all those things away as far as the stats, the records, or what Nico Hollins has done, you can throw all those things out the window come Saturday because it's a rival game. It's two teams that want to win the game, that want to send the seniors out the right way. It's two programs that have had a long history of battles on the field, and they're very competitive in everything that we do, from football to basketball to hopscotch. You say Texas Southern, it's going to be a bloodbath. So, again, we understand the magnitude of this game. We want to definitely make sure that we play with our heads. I think when you go into those type of games, it's the guys that can play with their heads that's going to be the ones that have the greatest advantage. That don't go into the game and get the silly penalties, do the selfish things that put their teams in compromising situations. But for us, offensively, it's about protecting the football. It's about protecting Nico and continuing to let him feel comfortable back there so he can make good decisions, step into his throws and make good accurate throws, establishing the run. And then defensively, it's about taking away the run. They ran the ball. They threw the ball less than 10 times against Pine Bluff last week, and so they're a team that really wants to establish the ground game. And we have to do a really good job of identifying the personnel groupings and making sure that we keep them behind the chains. And in the special teams phase, we got to continue to do what we've done. Darius Floyd is the second national kickoff return. He's a big return away from leading the nation, and we want to make sure we give him a chance to leave his career as the leading kick return in the country. And so again, I think those will be the keys to the game, but the emotional part to me is going to be the game within the game. We still can play with the heads, not have the silly penalties, the unsportsmanlike penalties, the personal fouls, the late hits, all those things. And if we can do that, we think we give ourselves a great chance to walk out with a victory and, again, finish this thing with a winning season.
Thank you, Coach, for your time. Really, thank you for the season. Look forward to at least one more week to follow up to see about your views on the past game and then going into the SWAC championship game. And then we'll get into the offseason with some recruiting and things of that nature. But wanted to say thank you for your time and appreciate all the input in terms of Caribbean and football.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Want to also tell you happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Yes, sir. Same to you guys.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
All right.
Go
Thank you,
Panthers.
Coach. Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Sir, go Panthers.
Yeah, then he snuck in that little
Yeah.
stuff about the
Like me,
top
that
team.
little-
No, yeah, he stuck that
He
in there.
snuck
Then
that
he
little
also
piece
got
in.
in the little analyst in there talking about,
Yeah.
the top quarterbacks playing. It's like, I say, what homework you doing in there? That was pretty nice.
Yeah, that was nice.
But I did want to follow up, as a lot of people were talking about, as we were doing the analysis in a lot of ways on Hampton in regards to that. So I gave you from a basketball perspective. The final thing I'll say about basketball that intrigues me is we could certainly see that there is an argument that you're stepping up, at least based by the Sagarian rating and strength of schedule. But is that enough, as you alluded to some degree, Mike,
Yeah.
there, in terms of what does that really mean in recruiting?
Yeah.
Are you going to get a couple of players, or are you going to get enough to differentiate yourself and be able to play for these championships? And does conference affiliation help you do that? I think to some case you can make that argument, but the question that a lot of people has, that's different when you say the CIAA versus the Big South.
Yeah.
Is it that marginal? I would argue in a lot of ways that they've been working on this for 10 years, and the Big South actually rejected them before, but now the Big South is getting to the point where they're losing Liberty, moving up to FBS, so they dropped down to 5 schools, and to maintain their NCAA playoff, they needed a 6th school, and that school had to already come at the FCS level.
Yeah.
Hampton does that for them. Now, to their credit, there were some questions about traveling distances. Well, yeah, in the article talked about just being able to travel between Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. But what's interesting to me is that I was almost concerned, is like, did they do all the homework? Kennesaw is in
Georgia.
in the conference too, and as
Yeah.
you just pointed out, it's in Georgia.
Yeah.
That's not one of the 3 you're talking about.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's another school that's moving in the conference called North Alabama.
There we go.
So I think that says a little bit about it too. They are in the state of what?
North
Alabama. Now there's some other things going on in Alabama right now that we won't get into from the questions a lot of people are thinking right now, talking about Alabama. But in terms of football, North Alabama has been a power at the Division II level. So I'd imagine that they want to keep that as they move to FCS. So that's not going to be a easy cakewalk. Plus, the travel hasn't really changed that much now.
Right.
If you're going to be traveling into Georgia and Alabama from that analysis. So go ahead.
Well, see, I was always curious about the differentiation in terms of the recruiting. I mean, are you going to be a little stronger in terms of the HBCU teams that you play? Because to me, I think that's the difference. Then taking a look at Tennessee State, I mean, they play their 2 HBCU games a year. They're normally, heads and tails in terms of talent ahead of them. But, I mean, what does it really mean?
Well,
in terms
if you
of playing the
use
conference?
Tennessee State as a case study, other than the 1 year, a couple of years ago that they deserve credit for, when they were at the top half of the conference, finished, I believe, 2nd that time in actually getting a bid to the playoffs. Outside of that, they've struggled in conference play. This last season, when we really thought they had the talent to do it, they went 2-4. So some major questions in that. Basketball, they've been solid in basketball with the new coach. I think, and arguably, many people would say basketball, they have a very solid coach coming out of Wichita and a program there. But is it translating in championships when in basketball, both for the Big South and OVC, you're still talking about a 1 big league. So to come in second doesn't do you any good, other than if you're seeking in NIT bids and things of that nature, but NCAA money in the bid, it doesn't work that way.
I guess, and that was my question. From a football standpoint,
Some people are talking about these 7 new jobs. We finna jump on that one.
Yeah, from a football standpoint, it makes sense. You got Kennesaw State, Monmouth, Charleston Southern, Presbyterian, Gardner-Webber, and Liberty. From a football standpoint, maybe it makes sense. From a basketball standpoint, how much sense does that make? How much more talent is that going to bring? Now you're talking baseball. Now you're talking track. Lacrosse has made the decision that it doesn't benefit us to jump into that conference. But if you look at the other conferences, I would argue, how much sense does it make for them to jump in that conference from a competitive standpoint?
The last one I want to drop here, and this is one that really I think is important. And it's not, this has very little, in my opinion, to do with Hampton. But this happens to do with perception, and it happens to do with perception on black institutions, whether that is businesses, particularly organizations and things of that nature. There is still a stigma within this world, particularly in the African American community that there are some negative components of the black institutions and what they stand for.
No problem.
I think we can go over that, whatever.
Yeah.
But one of the things he put out there was the strength of what they're doing academically, and that kind of threw me for a loop because I thought this was the case, but I said, as a researcher, let me go do my information. Of the new conferences, we talked about Liberty, Radford, Campbell, High Point, Charleston, Southern, Presbyterian, UNC Asheville, Longwood, Winthrop, Garner-Webb, Hampton, soon to be Kennesaw State, as well as North Alabama. But of the schools that are listed here, the first ones I did aside those next two, they only have 2 programs that are what you call doctoral universities, research activity level.
Yeah.
And they are both at the moderate level. The rest of the institutions are masters. They have 2 institutions at a baccalaureate, one at the arts and science focus level, or both of them at the arts and focus level, and one is what they call diverse fields. But you look at the MEAC in terms of comparison. The MEAC has 5 doctoral institutions. 5 doctoral. It's not even close. And of those 5, actually, 3 of them are higher research activities. So, at least by Carnegie classification, it's a challenge to me how you can make that argument that you're going to a higher conference with more academic prestige. I just don't see perception. And I think that's something that if we're going to do our due diligence in terms of HBCU work, we must put that on the table, that it has to move past this perception and what we're talking about. Academically, our HBCUs are doing the work. And I think it would do a disservice if I didn't share this about the SWAC since we're doing it. The SWAC itself has 3 doctoral institutions. That's still more than the 2 that the Big South has.
Yeah.
They have 3. And of those 3, Jackson State has a higher reach activity and the other 2 are moderate level. So even in the SWAC, you have more doctoral level than the Big South. So I think perception, we need to put it out there and this disclaimer. So I wanted to make sure people understood that it's not automatic just because you go to white institutions that they have larger academic pedigree. So I thought that was important to put that out there, and then we can transition after your talk.
In addition, the University of South Carolina Upstate is being added to the South Conference, Big South.
Yes, thinking basketball only, but yes.
No,
I don't think they have a football program.
No, softball and baseball.
That's what I'm saying. So it's all other sports.
They're looking outside of football. I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm just taking what he said. He said athletics and academics.
Right.
The 2 programs that make money are football and basketball. So I don't care about the other sports.
Agreed. Not
to disrespect the other sports, but I'm focusing in terms of where the money is.
Yes.
You know, I don't want to hear all that other stuff. I know where the money is. I teach this for a living. That sounds good. Whatever.
That sounds
you
good.
can go broke playing all those non-revenue sports with the travel.
Sure.
And part of his academic and athletic was to talk about the travel. So I want to talk about that. So we have our next caller in, then we're going to go in and analyze our next matchup and go into some of the coaching search we talked about. We have Coach Mike Haywood on the line. Coach Haywood? Coach Haywood? Hey, how you doing? You got some music in the background? Yeah, we're trying to get to catch up too. Same here. We're going to call you back and see if we can get a better reception and try it and bring you back in. Give us a minute or 2. So with that, as we're doing that, let's jump on the Bayou Classic matchup while we have this time before we get into all these coaching search, because we'll do a little more time after we get off, hopefully with the interview with Coach Mike Haywood.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts in terms of this Southern Grambling matchup in the Bayou Classic? It's huge.
Fascinating matchup in terms of it looks so much similar to last year. Everything is on the line in terms of getting to the SWAC championship. It's a little more interesting to me this year because I think Southern is peaking really right at the right time. And you know, I sent a text to Carlos last week, Ric Flair quote, "To beat a man, you got to beat the man." And
so it sounds like you leaning a little bit about Southern. We're going to put that as pause because we don't want you to say it just yet. We're going to make that a tease as we got Coach Mike Haywood back on the line, head football coach, Texas Southern University. How's it going, Coach Haywood? Pretty good, pretty good. we can hear you, but it's a little faint, but we're going to see if we can work with it. You went up to Pine Bluff, tough road trip in a lot of ways, but you found a way to get it done. Third string quarterback that would have been third string. He's starting now in terms of the matchup, but he got it done with the rest of the team playing some great defense, putting up points that we hadn't quite seen all season. So what was your thoughts on that game? Yeah, really stretched their lead and put doubt in their mind. Worked out really well in terms of how you were able to play that game. Charles, would you follow up with a question?
Yeah, Coach, you ran for 273 yards this game with, I think, only 3 passing attempts. But talk about the work of the offensive line this past week against Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Well, going into the game, we talked about the offensive line and the defensive line. Also, we're going to have to win it in the trenches. And I believe that the offensive line rallied up because the only reason that there were 3 passes still in the game is because we couldn't throw the ball because of the weather. And we just wanted to run it and pound it. And we were able to have some success with the zone read. Also a play that we call magazine read and interior alignment. And so we were able to have some success with running back shooting the ball. Wooder stepped up and had a better game. And then also Eli Odom, the quarterback, did a nice job to run the ball as well. So, you know, we're starting to get better as a football team, but we still have a long ways to go.
Certainly understand that. Mike, would you follow up?
Yeah, Coach. Going back to the 3 pass attempts, you made a commitment to basically focus on the run, and obviously that was an in-game decision because of the weather. But now it's a different animal as you go against Prairie View. Different offense, different scheme. What will be kind of your mindset and what will be your approach as you don't want to be one-dimensional against a more balanced Prairie View A&M University team?
Well, it's about what we do, and to win the game, we have to control the clock. Because Prairie View is trying to go as fast as they can, get as many plays run as they can, really catch you off balance where you can't substitute in, and they're trying to go basketball on grass. So we have to control the clock. And when you control the clock, the offense on the opponent team is frustrated. All right? Because now you're running the clock, you're being methodical going down the field. Now, we have to take what they give us. If it's the run, if it's the short game, or if it's the deep ball. We're going to take whatever defenses that they're giving us, we're going to try to make the appropriate checks to get into the right run, right pass, and so that we can have success in both running and passing in the game.
So, certainly, Coach, don't want to get too far off in terms of the game plan and what's going on here. But I thought during the touchdown luncheon, you clearly put it out there. Don't listen to all these message boards and stuff like that. For those that weren't there at the touchdown, obviously Football Scoop is talking about you're one of the top candidates for Alabama State. And I'm sure you want to clear that up here, so I wanted to give you that opportunity.
I mean, first of all, as I said in the press conference today, for everybody that's on that internet and believing everything in which they read,
and we had that problem with the last election. Never mind. Don't go there, Chris.
Everybody's on that internet and they reading it and they believing everything in which they read. And like I told them today, I said, I'm thankful for Charles McClellan giving me an opportunity to come back home and coach football in my home state. I'm a Houstonian and I love being at TSU and I plan on being at TSU. I have no interest in going anywhere else. And I said, all that jargon in which they're reading, nobody's ever talked to me about it because they talk to me about it. I'm not interested.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thanks for clearing that up, and thank you for allowing us to get in that type of question. Let me let Charles follow up and get back into some football.
Yeah, Coach, going into this rivalry game with Prairie View, what are some of the things that Texas Southern has to do to try to come out with the W in this game?
Well, first of all, we're going to have to be able to run the football, and then we're going to have to be able to play action pass. We're going to have six to eight big plays in the game, maybe run a pass. We're going to have 6 to 8 big plays in the game. Because if you look at it, Prairie View is hitting about 3 to 4 big plays a game. And those 3 to 4 big plays in the game are things that either helping them win the game or putting them back into the game. But you look at the Incarnate Word game. Incarnate Word was, they got behind in the score, then they got behind 21, then they started to catch up. But then they tied the game up 21-21, then they tied the game up 28-28, and then they ended up losing it in the end. But the thing that they did is that they stayed with their game plan and didn't change.
Yeah.
When they got behind, they still didn't change their game plan. Well, we can't change our game plan no matter what the score is. Unless we're up in front, then we're going to start bleeding the clock. And on defensively, we're going to have to stop the run and make sure that we manage the RPOs and then don't give up the deep ball. All right? Because if you're giving up the deep ball, then you're giving them an opportunity to get up and get all excited because then it becomes a cheerleader fest over there when they get the deep ball and you get inside. I mean, everybody's jumping up, yelling and screaming. I mean, you ought to expect you to hit a few of them during the year. So, just the way it is.
I love it. So let's talk about some of your key players on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, offensively, as you talked about quarter play and running back, that you want to control the clock. What about defensively? What are you looking at? Not to go too much into schematics, but if you give us some concepts of going inside the locker room, what are we looking at from a coaching perspective as you talk about this matchup?
Well, first of all, we're going to have to get Jimmy White healthy this week because he got a little beat up last week, along with Marquise Walker. Sean Jones, who didn't play last week, we're trying to get him back into the fold this week. Yeah. So we're trying to get some guys healthy is what we're trying to do. With that being said, we have to get multiple blitzes, multiple fronts. We just have to create confusion with the quarterback. And so that we can, because Nico's a sophomore at quarterback, and so we got to give him different fronts, different coverages, different blitz looks. And we have to try to confuse the quarterback so they'll create some turnovers. But at the same time, we're going to have to put pressure on them. I mean, they're a good offensive line. I watched them again after the banquet today. I went back and watched them again. They're a good offensive line. They do a nice job of getting square on the defenders, doing a nice job of passing off twists and loops. And I think that they're doing a really good job. Coach Simmons is doing a really good job with those guys. And we just have to make sure that we confuse the quarterback and put him in reverse conditions and be successful in our blitz package and our disguise package.
Certainly, Coach. One follow-up question here.
Yeah, Coach. As you near the end of the season, obviously the season has not ended, unfortunately, the way you had planned or the way you would like. I'll ask you the same question I asked Coach Simmons. What is your message to the team in terms of just completely finishing? How do you take them through the psyche of, hey, we're not where we want to be, but we want to finish? How do you approach the team with this message? And how do you take them through the entirety of the game in such a crucial matchup? Nothing on the line, but a pure matchup and a pure rivalry game at the end of the season.
When you go into your locker room, there's some guys that are on your team that are seniors that have never played college football again. And no matter how tough it gets, we talk about our brother isn't too heavy. And we have to play, not only for ourselves, but we got to play for these seniors that are approaching their last game. And when adversity strikes, we have to make sure that we fight to overcome adversity so that these guys can leave with some respect and a win over Prairie. I mean, the last game against Pine Bluff in the locker room, you should have seen the seniors celebrating and dancing, and then the young kids falling in.
Nice.
Well, that's somewhat contagious. So as we talked about it today before we went out to practice, we need this repeated because we need to send these guys off the right way. And we have to play together as a team so that we can send them off the right way.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Coach.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. And want to say thanks for sharing all season long. Obviously, we would love to get you back here next week to kind of culminate the season, talk a little bit about the off season going forward, and maybe some analysis on the SWAC championship game, if you would. So just wanted to say thanks, Coach, for coming on, and wanted to say Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Well,
Thanksgiving.
I'd like to say happy Thanksgiving to you guys, and may you guys be blessed and your families be safe. And I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all the TSU students and alumni, faculty, and staff throughout the country. And may they be safe during this holiday season and stay blessed. And thank you very much for having me on the show.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Coach.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Tigers.
All right, go Tigers.
So a good analysis there in terms of the matchup. Gave me a little pause. I was going in Prairie View. Now I'm like, this is a robbery.
It
This
is
is a
a
rivalry
rivalry.
game.
Throw the records
Yeah.
out.
Hey, Coach Simmons said it. Throw everything out the window.
Ask Alcorn about rivalry game.
Yeah.
Good one. He got away.
He got to throw that one in.
I like it.
He had to throw that one in.
I like it.
He got to get that jab
Yeah, it was
in.
good. Get that nice jab in. I like it. With that said, let's go into this matchup here. So let's start with Mike. Mike, who you got? Prairie View, Texas Southern. Who you got in that matchup?
Oh, I got Prairie.
Charles, what do you got in that matchup?
I tend to favor Prairie View, but it's going to be a close.
It's going to be a closer than you
It's
thought.
going to be a dogfight.
It'll be an exciting game. That's
I
what.
think the
so.
larger amount of experience goes to Prairie View
Yes.
in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
matchup,
Mhm.
and the fact that you're just so down in terms of injury depletion, and I think not having the full load of scholarships at the end of the season is going to be a little too much for Texas Southern Tigers. But as you said, I think they played early, but in this case, I'm going to lean towards Prairie View. I'll kind of coast back as I get back from Atlanta and see if I still feel that way on Friday after I hear some input on the side. Now let's jump back in. You were about to give us some updates on the Southern Grambling matchup.
Yeah.
And it sounded like some way that you were leaning Jaguars. Is that the case? Is that where you're going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I take a look at Grambling, and I mean, for all their accolades, offensively, it's their defense that I think has separated them throughout the course of the season. They lead the SWAC again in sacks. I think they get after the quarterback. The thing that I really like about Southern, though, is Austin Howard. A healthy Austin Howard. They're a completely different ball club. And to me, you take a look at what he's been able to do. They have 10 different receivers with over 10 catches.
Yeah.
You know, they really, the offense is a little more diversified this year as opposed to Willie Quinn and Lennar Tillery last year. So, to me, I think Southern can pull the upset.
You almost convinced me. Never mind.
He almost convinced me too.
Mike, go ahead.
It sounded very motivational, but at the end of the day,
All right.
I'm sorry. I think if you look at number one, I went against Grambling State against Prairie View, and Grambling State was able to pull out a few wrinkles that Prairie View may not have been prepared for. I think that may be the case here. Second, defense. All year round. In every defensive category, Grambling has been number one. Number two, maybe 1 week or two, Grambling has been number one. And then their offense as well. We know about their offense. So with Southern, what are the upsides? Austin Howard, spreading the ball, spread offense. What the question we have is their defense. How consistent can their defense play? I think when you put them two in the mix in a competitive game like this, you have to go with Grambling edging them out. I think you throw a lot of that out to your credit, but I think at the end of the day, Grambling realizes how important a game this is, and they pull out a few wrinkles that maybe we didn't expect.
I'm not going to go on all the detail. I'll leave that to my guest panelists. I'm going with Grambling. Y'all crazy. Y'all trying to talk. Man, y'all sound like, y'all good. I like this, man. Y'all been doing this too long, man. Y'all worked all that up. But we just talked about the sexy matchup, obviously. This one's Fall of Marbles, 2 years in a row. The Bayou Classic deserves everything they get. They put in the work in it. They got quality institutions doing the work, and it looks like
I like the build-up in the matchup this year. I definitely like the build-up in the matchup.
But want to give some love to Alabama State.
Yep.
94th Turkey Day Classic.
Yep.
Switching the matchup, but they playing Edward Waters. Does it spend you a lot of time to go in this matchup? And is it enough for the interim head coach to keep the job, since we just talked about the rumors out there? The other candidate winner was the Troy State or Troy, as they like to call it now, coach, going into that matchup. What are your things about Alabama State and Edward Waters?
Yeah, I mean, when you take a look at the wins Alabama State has this season, I'm not sure if that's enough to push the current interim coach over the edge. But you got to go with Alabama State over Edward Waters, definitely in this Turkey Bowl class.
Yeah. And the coach's name that I was talking about with Troy, corner recruiting coordinator, Al Pogue.
Al Pogue, exactly.
Al Pogue, yeah.
What about you?
I can't add anything to that. I don't think this is enough to really move the needle in terms of gaining any momentum for him to being. Unless, I mean, it's a decisive win. Maybe he can raise some eyebrows. But at the end of the day, Alabama State, no.
But since we're talking about Alabama State, kudos to their volleyball team. 4th championship in 5 years.
That's crazy. 3 straight years. Big matchup. Mm-hmm. Cannot allow Texas Southern to get over that hump.
Yeah.
That nemesis there. Should be interesting. But this was a young Texas Southern team, so in a lot of ways, credit for them, at least in the tournament, getting this far, because they didn't even finish second in terms of conference play. So you're right. Kudos to the Alabama State Hornets, getting it done, major factor to them. But I'm going to go with Alabama State over Ed Waters, big, and I think it is going to be enough that you're not going to have to worry about all these rumors. I think ultimately they're going to give Hill a chance to go ahead and lead this program.
Dr. Cavill, do you know something? I'm just saying. I mean, us mere mortals.
I mean, that was
somebody
way
said,
too
"Thank
convincing."
you." Smell like some haterade over there. Yes, you all the way. Talking to Charles, we call Grambling. Don't put out a haterade on everybody in here. Y'all listening, Dr. Vitt? No, there ain't no haterade over here. I told you, Grambling, the big bad bully in the house. Now, when they play North Carolina A&T, I might look a little different. But they got to get there first. They still got to get past Alcorn, and Alcorn literally said they didn't play anybody, and this is not the Jack State. Jack State did what they were supposed to do when you put on the cleats. I don't care who you put out there. They did it, but it'd be interesting to see is his plans resting and getting everybody healthy. Yeah. Is that going to be enough going into the championship game?
Well, even I say to that, I mean, Noah Johnson had SWAC hours. He's won some SWAC games, so that's true. That sort of, that.
Well, that's probably why you play him, because you think you can get by with it. Because I don't think you throwing that game out the window. Right. It just didn't work out in your favor, so now everybody else gets to look at that.
Hey, Fred McNair said this was a pit stop. That quote unquote. This is a pit stop.
All right, it is.
Hey, this is not Big Mike.
I like that. Now
this is what's going. He said this was a pit stop. Good luck with that.
All right,
so now let's get in here and get into some of these coaching changes as we talked about. Man, it was hot and furious. Text, email, HBCUsports.com. They were all off the cliff in terms of all these different vacancies going out. What are some of your biggest surprises out there in terms of these coaching changes? First, you had Alabama State coach early in the season, obviously, was fired. And then the Alabama State athletic director essentially resigned. Obviously, you have Monty Coleman. Contract will not be renewed at UAB. Comegee out as Mississippi Valley State football head coach as his contract was not renewed. Then also in the SWAC, Spady. We heard that fleshing out on Sunday as he gave the quote that essentially his contract was up and he was not renewed. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty much out of the SWAC what took place. Then you go into the MEAC, and it hit home there as well, where you had Delaware State terminate the AD and head coach. That was a termination on that one. And then I wonder how much that had to go with that last 77-6 score. Yeah. I mean, obviously all the season, but boy, that show makes it tough. And this was done by a president that is taking another job. The AD and the football coaches out. I thought that was interesting. Mm-hmm. One that I was surprised about somewhere, and then when I thought about it, I wasn't surprised after the big announcement. Connell Maynard out, resigns at Hampton football program after 4 years. Surprised that he couldn't get it done. Obviously, last year was his big year and couldn't quite get it done. This year, they looked like they were in a roll. They had that lull in the bottom of the season, finished out strong. They got a big victory against Hampton in that matchup, but I thought that was intriguing on that matchup. What are you about some of the coaching searches that will be going up? What are your thoughts? Any hot names out there that you said people need to keep their eye on?
Well, the Connell Maynard one kind of surprised me a little bit. You're talking about a coach who came from Winston-Salem State, had tremendous success there. I was surprised about that. Coaching names that are hot, North Carolina Central's offense coordinator, T.C. Taylor. He's a pretty pretty hot name out there.
Yep. Anybody else?
Well,
Dooley, is he?
I think Coach.
I think
Dooley,
at some point,
at some point, Coach Dooley is.
He's certainly
been knocking on the door.
He's been
more than
certainly
deserving.
I have a name out of the Division II level that y'all need to listen up to. He's actually watching, so hopefully he's not mad at me for this. Antoine Sword, defensive coach, coordinator at Bowie State, has done a lot of good things. Everywhere he's been, he's basically won. Won previous at Prairie View in terms of that. He's certainly climbed up the rank, so he's learned from every level. He was formerly out of Georgia doing some work. I think it was Fort Valley State, maybe Albany State. Don't quote me on that. I'm forgetting which school there, so I apologize on that. But certainly we know what the work he did at Prairie View, doing his tenure there, bringing in that championship, going up to Bowie State, taking them right there on the edge of championships. That's a name that you need to keep your eyes on. And we know we have some presidents out there listening. We have some ADs out there listening. Do your homework. Go ahead and make sure you look at some of these candidates. We know that sometimes it's intriguing and people want you to go outside of the HBCU framework. If that happens to be the best candidate, so be it. But do not overlook your own goal right here that you mined over the years that deserve an opportunity.
Exactly.
And oftentimes, if you look at some of the coaches that are winning, they are coaches that are internal and have understood the HBCU culture, and even those that come from outside of that have been embedded within HBCUs a long time as coordinators before they went up the head coaching rank. Yeah. So don't be so quick to go outside as we kind of talked about with Hampton University. So, again, those are some names that I think you need to keep your eyes on in regards to that.
Yeah, coaches who know how to win without all the resources. So, great point that you made.
Yeah.
Mike Jones, he said Alcorn didn't come to play. Yeah, that was obvious. We saw that in the score. Then we have Tina Pennywell thrower. She keeps throwing out this saying, you all said the same thing when Alcorn played Grambling. Tina, let me make this clear to you. There is one individual in here that did not pick Grambling. So I don't know where you get all these y'alls. I know you country, and that's something that you may use differently. But you all means plural, more than one. There's one individual in here. Let's make that clear. Don't put that on my bedrock. Some people saying Frazier may be in the mix for that Alabama A&M. Jimmy Wilson, I give him credit on that. He's putting it out there. So that'll be interesting. That comes in fruition. What about the DC at North Carolina A&T? He has a very solid year. Another name, a good nugget out there. Jimmy has been in the work. Let's give Jimmy L. Wilson another shout out as he putting in some work and making sure we shine today.
What are some ties, North Carolina A&T?
So you see,
these inside ties are killing me. You know? It's obvious when they put their
Mike, quit hating, man.
I'm not hating. I'm just testifying.
He done went to church on you already. So, finally, as we kind of climb up on this and we talk about the Big Ben. Big Ben is going down next Wednesday. It's at the Sheraton Suites Hotel. You can go to the website and get your tickets. They're going fast. We've condensed it, so we wanted really a nice private affair. So if you're coming, please let me know so we can make sure you have a seat. We will close out the tickets this year. Michael Jones had to throw this out there with Willis Simmons headed to FAMU. I've already checked that, Michael Jones.
Come on, Mike Jones.
That ain't happening.
Mike Jones.
That ain't happening. I started to ask Simmons to kill it on the show, but he said he would. Don't do that to the Prairie View folks out here, Mike Jones. Even Jimmy Wilson. The FAMU folks, they proud and everything out there, but their money just not fat like it is in Texas. They not doing it like that. They can't afford it. Can't afford it. I'll put that out there right now.
Wow.
Not that he may not look at that seriously. I would say that.
About that Texas
but
money.
It's that money, that old money. There's some black folks with that old money around here. I told y'all about that white ice. Y'all need to listen. Y'all playing like these folks ain't got no money around here. Alabama A&M needs to keep the DC as they make that move. He said, I'm not talking about Dr. Cavill. Thank you, Tina. Get it right. I'm not talking about Dr. Cavill. I'm talking about that other Panther, that blue and white tiger standing on the other side of you. There you go. Call him out. Talk about them and let them know I like that. She got specific. That's what I want to know.
Charles, I think she's referring to you.
Mike, I really thought she was talking to you.
I appreciate y'all all the love you're showing out here. We got Dr. Stephanie Williams. Congratulations on getting your doctorate a couple of years ago, cousin. Well done with that. A lot of things in there. Anything that you want to close on there, Mike, before I get talking about the Big Ben El Cabo HBCU Football
Absolutely.
Award?
We got another special. Brandon Parker, offensive lineman for North Carolina A&T, proposed to his girlfriend. Now, this dude is an offensive lineman. He's been playing the conference for like 2-3 years. Wow. He's 6'7", 300. Asked his girlfriend to marry him, and of course she said yes. At that size, if he asked me to marry him and look down, I think. But yeah, I thought that. Yeah,
that's another one.
Is
a trend?
Yeah, starting the trend.
Exactly.
I like this. I like this. It tells you about that HBCU culture and just how special it is. So I'm certainly glad that you brought that out, and that was spectacular to see. And that matchup, as we watch North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central, kudos to them in terms of putting a championship matchup basically for 3 quarters. Excellent game there. Had a chance to look at a little bit of that FAMU game, Bethune-Cookman. I know a lot of people were heated. You even had a board member that usually don't come out to talk about that play call. And what's so crazy about the play call, it was a challenge. It was difficult. But I was watching the game, and it was not executed. The play would have worked, and literally he had 2 blockers out there.
Yeah.
And the guy
slid
between the 2 blockers to get to the punter, and you can see the blockers looking at each other, and the one closer to the inside saw it and was like, no. But by the time he turned, it was too late, and he kind of like pushed it. And even when he saw his punter go down before the first down, he looked at the other guy, put up his hands like, why? And then the announcer had the perfect, who you talking about? You Oh, my goodness. So it was good. Demetrius Gatewood, good student here. I got some great news for him. I need you to call me, Gatewood. I know you coming back to finish up the degree.
That
got something to help you about that. Good job on that. But wanted to talk again about highlighting players of the week. Prairie A&M Panthers quarterback Nico Hollins, we talked a little bit about him, had a second consecutive great game. He threw for 348 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also completed 65% of his passes on the day. Hollins was also the SWAC Offensive Player of the Week because of his accolades. Prairie A&M Panthers Darius Floyd was a major recipient of Hollins' passes this week. He had 11 receptions for a massive 153 yards in that contest. He added 2 touchdowns to his great game. His longest reception was for 48 yards. And it was key in terms of pulling the game away for that second reception. He also added 109 kickoff return yards to his magnificent day. Boy, that is a lot going on there. Texas Southern Tiger running back Brad Woodard toted the ball mail, as they would say, in a win against Arkansas Pine Bluff. He had 27 carries for 128 yards. He added a touchdown to his day. Woodard averaged almost 5 yards per carry. Texas Southern linebacker Julian Marquintel had an outstanding game on the defensive side of the ball. He had 10 tackles for the Tigers, which was second on the team. He also forced a fumble, and he added 1.5 tackles for a loss. The Tigers' defense didn't give up a point in the second half, which was big in terms of them pulling away in that game. The linebacker for Prairie A&M, Jalen Coleman, led the Panthers in tackles with 11. He also caused some disruption behind the line of scrimmage for 1.5 tackles for a loss. Prairie A&M Nico Hollins is the Big Ben Award Offensive Player of the Week. Texas Southern's Julian Marquintel is in the Big Ben Award Defensive Player of the Week, and Prairie A&M Darius Floyd is the Big Ben Award Specialist of the Week in terms of his accolades of what he did. Again, that's Nico Hollins, quarterback right here, Fresno, Texas, 4 touchdowns, 348 yards. You can see why both Prairie View and Texas Southern was after this young man. Credit to the coaches for getting on that. Julian Marquintel, linebacker, Sulphur, Louisiana, had 10 tackles, 1.5 tackles for a loss, and a forced fumble. And special teams, Darius Floyd, wide receiver, Franklin, Texas, had a 109 return yard for a special player of the week. Any Big Ben helmet stickers that y'all want to give on a national level for players last week?
Sure, I'm going to drop a helmet sticker on Larry Brim. Had a huge game in the Florida Classic, 26 of 36, 280 yards.
Good one.
Definitely going to give a helmet sticker to Andre Lloyd, linebacker for Jackson State. He had 10 tackles in the game against Alcorn. He's also the son of former linebacker great Andre Lloyd Sr.
I'd like to add an extra kudos to Larry Brim and throw in an extra to Quan Richardson for Bethune-Cookman. Senior, 2 interceptions, led the team with tackles. His interception with 36 seconds left sealed the victory, so he had a big game. The other question I ask is, Nico Hollins.
Yeah.
Dude, if he has a big game against TSU, he's up in the finalist round for the Big Ben.
Sneaking in there. He's making a late round move.
Some discussion rooms.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that as we talk about the finalists.
And I'm going to send a quick kudos helmet sticker to the fans at the Florida Classic, Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M, 47,119.
Yeah.
We'll take it. Last thing is, didn't go well in the playoffs, but I wanted to shout out these teams. They did it.
Yeah.
All teams, HBCU at the mid-major level, are out this week. Delta State 45, defeating Bowie State, the HBCU 35 there. Also West Georgia defeating the HBCU 35-9, Virginia State. And then on the NAIA side, you have Northwestern Iowa 55 defeating the HBCU Langston 7 in those matchups. Tough week for them, but kudos to the mid-majors for getting it done in terms of what they going on there. As we look at this, did want to give an update on the major division poll a little bit here in terms of what's going on here with that. Not a great deal of changes, but Prairie View solidifies themselves at 10, going 5-5, 3-3. Talked about them trying to get their winning season. We'll see Tennessee State at 6-5, 2-5. They finished out the season on a tough loss to Jacksonville. Jacksonville did get in the playoffs, but they shut them out. Hampton 6-5, 5-3. And then we have North Carolina Central 7-4, 5-3, staying at number 7. Alcorn State Braves fall 2 spots to 6, 7-4, 5-2 on the season after their loss to their rival Jackson State. At number 5, Howard Bison surprised a lot of folks as it looked like they were rolling. Certainly wanted to finish the season strong, not to be, as they finished 7-4, 6-2. Had an outside shot, maybe trying to make an argument of playoff, but after the loss, certainly wasn't going to do it. And number 4, Bethune-Cookman Wildcats 7-4, 6-2. Kudos for Bethune-Cookman. Tough year, like the Texas Southern and Prairie View team dealing with hurricane. They had to deal with their own hurricane. They were actually out of town. When theirs hit, getting a big win over Louisiana Southeastern there, and they closed out a season winning 4 out of 5, including a Hail Mary that knocked North Carolina Central out of a championship game against North Carolina A&T. So they finished at 7-4, 6-2. Great work, moving up 2 spots. Kudos to them. At number 3, Southern Jaguars 7-3, 5-1, moving up 2 spots. They face number 2 Grambling State Tigers 9-1, 6-0. Should be interesting in the Bayou Classic. 2 versus 3. Can't beat that. North Carolina and T finished the season undefeated. Need to make sure we give them a shout out. 11-0, 8-0, first time in their history. 7 first place votes as they get it done. And quickly do the mid-major poll ranking there to give you some updates on that, if you would. Top 10 programs here. At the bottom, it stays the same. Some changes at the top, so do that quickly. Fort Valley State Wildcats 5-5, 5-1. At number 9, Winston-Salem State Rams 6-4, 4-3. They stay at that position. Same thing for the next 5 teams, where you have Fayetteville State Broncos 6-5 at 5-2. Virginia Union Panthers at 6-4 and 5-2. Top 10 coach loses his job at Virginia Union. We didn't get in the mid-major there. I thought that was a little surprise there. A little discourse between the AD and head coach. But wouldn't be surprised if Coach finds his way back in the mix. At number 6, Miles Golden Bears, 6-4, 4-2. Benedict 5 stays at number 5. They're 7-2, 5-1. At number 4, Tuskegee Golden Tigers are 9-2, 6-0. Didn't get the playoff bid. I would have liked to see what went on there if they had a chance to do that. And then you have at number 2. Actually, is a tie for number 1 ranking here between Langston Lions and Virginia State Trojan. Both are tied, 103 votes, 5 votes apiece, sitting at 10-1, 8-0, and Virginia State sitting at 10-1, 7-0. Any thoughts on either one of the poll rankings there as we get it in there? Looks like you have some surprises.
Split that with Langston and Virginia State.
I think it majors. I mean, Hampton, despite all the turmoil, was a 3-point edge over Howard.
That was a good win.
Yes, yet you have Howard still ranked over Hampton. I'm a big proponent of head-to-head.
I can understand that.
You have them 2 to 3 spaces. I can see if they're 1 space above, but you have them 2 to 3 slots above them.
That's a good one. I have to go check out that computer again and look a little closer at that. I think you make an excellent point on that. But we'll come up to a close as we get going. Some big-time matchups. Turn on those televisions. Again, if you can't get there and watch these games, make sure you watch on television. Both Literally all three of these games will be televised between Alabama State, Edward Waters, obviously Grambling State and Southern, and the NBC Sports Network, and then locally for Prairie View and Southern there. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the sports professor, with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. As we come to a close, we hope you enjoyed our conversation with Coach Willie Simmons, head football coach at Prairie View A&M University, and Coach Mike Haywood, Texas Southern University head football coach, in terms of what's going on here. We want to thank you for listening to Dr. Vill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday right here from 5:45 to 7:15, right here on KSWH TV 92.9 FM HD2. The Vein. We're pumping your system in the historic KSWH studio in Houston, Texas, www.kswh-tv. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Course lecture dismissed.
Well, hold it, Doc. I mean, I know you got some turkey to go eat, but
So I got to get to my turkey, fried turkey, and some of that seafood.
What seafood? What?
What?
Seafood. I'm gonna do some seafood gumbo.
Oh God.
Oh,
and seafood stuffing.
you had to bring that in.
Stuffing.
They don't hate. Don't come close. Stay away.
What do you mean seafood stuffing? What you got, the crab meat?
Jimmy Wilson said he see Gibbs and Broadway in the matchup. What?
Seafood. What do you mean?
Seafood. No, seafood gumbo. So you can have all your crab meat. Then when you do seafood stuffing, where you stuff the turkey, and it's a fried turkey with the stuffing.
Fried turkey with seafood.
Yeah, with stuffing that is made up of seafood, shrimp.
Really?
Lobster in there
like
mixing.
A dressing.
Yeah, just like a dressing, but it has a seafood mixing in
it. Cooked, or what do you have to
you got to cook it. You got to just like you just stuffing. Yeah,
and you stuff it in there after you cook it.
Yeah, after you stuff it in there after it's cooked, after it's baked in.
What's the ingredients again, Doc?
Yeah, it has the seafood stuffing. There has oyster, lobster tail. It has shrimp.
Up, all that stuff.
Yeah, all the chopped up, mixed up.
Yeah.
And so all your seafood that you used to getting in a gumbo, except for the meat. No, I'm sure some people probably could fish, but ones I had don't have the fish in it. But
But what about Coach Ely at Alabama State? I mean,
we talked about it. I said Ely probably, if he wins this game, I think he's going to get a chance to actually get this job.
Ely should already have the job.
Well, I don't do all that. They got these folks. Now, see, look, Ralph, you taught me well. If these coaches want to get in the mix and they want me to work for them to make sure that they land a job, then there's what you call a consulting fee. Now, I've been working for these folks a long time. My weight is up. My voice is loud now, and I don't understand. People need to recognize if he want all this work. See, all these folks want all this free work. I don't understand this. See, I told you about these black institutions. They don't pay. They don't play. See, now another firm come out there, lawyers. You want to pay them, you give them all your money from your contract. But little old Kenyatta Cavill, Dr. Cavill, as they like to say, the data doctor, the sports professor, you can't even kindly work with Dr. Cavill. I don't understand.
Are we getting a bill or invoice for your
it's already sent. It's already sent.
I sense a real sore spot.
Get out here, man. Thank you all very much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you guys for listening. Happy Thanksgiving to all our viewers and listeners out there. We really appreciate you chiming in, doing the show, and showing us love. It goes a long way as we try to continue to build this program.